Hello, welcome back to Mountain Gym Card Collectibles. If you're having a great week. So I'd managed to find an X post today that seems to be getting under a lot of people's skin. It's really simple. And we know there's a lot of gaslighting, in this hobby when it comes to Pokemon cards and Pokemon reselling as well as sports cards, But what is it about our current economy where a lot of people are just left feeling empty? And that would include myself, these last few days and last week I was out job hunting, putting a lot of applications, talking to people on the phone, but still no job, no callbacks. And for me, that's kind of unusual, although I'm getting older, so I can talk to people over the phone and it sounds good. And I show up and, they're looking at me like, I'm some old guy. Well, I'm not super old, but apparently in our current day and age, in our current economy, where I'm at, I guess that's just too old, So that takes me to this post. A lot of people have been weighing in on this, retweeting it, adding on what they don't like about this ideology. And I would have to agree. Just a simple post from February 24th, 2026. Pokemon cards are outperforming stocks and crypto. Let that sink in. Well, I don't agree, I had some cards go out this morning, sports cards. I have Pokemon cards, I don't know, lately my Pokemon cards that I'm selling, they just haven't been selling as much, but I've been selling sports cards. But that's the issue. It's not like I'm getting rich off these cards either, I mean, the problem I have is the way that so many people in this hobby like to gaslight others into believing that, if you're buying into Pokemon and you're investing money like you're on the stock market, no, you're not. And the reason why is because, when you sell stocks in the stock market, you put them up for sale, you click your button, they're all sold for the most part, it's just, that doesn't happen with sports cards. I wish it did. I wish I could just put all my sports cards I want sold, like I'm on the stock market, hit sale, they're all gone. No, it doesn't work that way. A lot of times you end up sitting on the stuff for a long time before it moves, So let's see what people are saying. Just like NFTs, the next day NFTs are worth nothing. It's all good until it's not. Yep. And that's the danger in this hobby is if you're spending a lot of money, if you're gambling a lot of money and you believe it's going to turn around and make you extremely wealthy, wow, I just feel like that's just a really flawed ideology, Maybe it'll work out if you're a big breaking company tied in with Fanatics Collect, Fanatics Live. But if you're not, you're more likely like the rest of us. Kind of like me. I can't even find a job, how many apps have I put in, last week, this week? I talk to people on the phone. I show up, like I did this morning. Everyone's excited. Oh, the old guy showed up. We don't want him working. But you see, that's the issue when you get older in this country. They hype up, you can make a living, you can do this, you can do that. But as you get older, it gets tougher because they want this youthful appearance in so many businesses. True, but it's not easy selling a large position in cardboard. I love my cardboard. It doesn't compare to stocks and crypto. He said it right there. True, but it's not easy selling a large position in cardboard. I more or less said that earlier. If I could just hit the button, all my cards are sold, I would. You can do that with your stocks. I did this morning. I lost a little bit of money this morning. I lost, about 20 cents on my stock purchase, But I'm a day trader, so it usually isn't, the harm isn't too bad typically, but the gains aren't exactly, Mount Everest, in gains. The crash is going to be hard. Logan Paul and 30th anniversary will mark the top of this market. It very well could, because, I see more and more that things are getting back to kind of our pre-pandemic levels in a lot of, sectors of the economy. And so I kind of believe that, running the Pokemon, like it's going to save your bacon is kind of wearing out for a lot of people, to say the least. Key phrase right now. Yeah, maybe there's a little bubble yesterday, when he posted this. Who knows, but, my Pokemon cards aren't exactly selling. Only buy cards during market flushes when collectors are forced to sell their slabs to cover margin calls. You can often snag 20 to 30% discounts from desperate traders. Okay, right there. What's the wording that I don't like? Traders, okay? Guys, this is not the stock market. I'd recommend getting an account through some brokerage and hitting the stock market so more and more people realize that, I have a lot of issues with the way that people are talking about Pokemon currently. I talk about, traders when I talk about the stock market, man. I don't use that word to talk about people in the Pokemon hobby. Facts. The overall market had a correction within the last few months in 2025, and now it's bullish. More upside to come for 2026. People are wanting to park more money in tangible or hard assets. Give me a break, man. Gaslighting on steroids right there. I'm laughing so hard. And the reason why I'm laughing so hard is, do you know how many billions of dollars are on the stock market day in and day out, and it's so easy to work with for the most part with your trades. Oh, you got in a bad trade, you just sell it off, like today, I lost a few cents. The problem with this ideology is when you invest a lot of money into a Pokemon card or a sports card and it doesn't work out, the sales don't work out, you eat a lot of it. Now, I've lost a lot of money in the stock market, by selling stuff that should have been sold a lot earlier, and I took a big loss. But I haven't really taken a big loss online stock market trading. When I think of my big losses, it's back like 9/11. I lost a lot of money on 9/11, and I let the stock sunk, and it just kept sinking and sinking, and eventually it just turned into nothing. But you see, I was trading differently back then. Back then, you have to call a brokerage, to make your trades for the most part, With this online trading, it's really easy to, set yourself up, to be safe, so if it starts dropping in price, it'll hit a dollar point and it sells all your stocks off, or you can set it to a point to where, okay, if it gets high and it gets to this point, it all sells off. We can't just really do that in sports cards, I know a lot of people want you to believe in that. Oh, there's been some big sales. But overall, when you look at, the fan base of Pokemon TCG, most people are not getting rich off of Pokemon. Congrats, Bryce. You're so close to figuring out what a bubble is. People like me, we see these younger people, in this hobby trying to pretend something it's not, I'm a 51-year-old man. I can see through the veil, I can see through the BS. Cultural relevance is the new gold standard. Stocks track companies, but Pokemon cards track the nostalgia of an entire generation. And nostalgia is recession proof. No, it's not. No, it is not, people. And the reason it's not is because you can't just click the sell button. You get my point? Oh, you listed it up on eBay. It sat up there for 5 years. Nobody was interested. Eventually you took it off. That's not exactly the stock market. That's not the way the stock market works, people. All this gaslighting I get from these idiots on X, I just get so exhausted. Crazy how we just let these fake-ass Poke Bros into the hobby and turn it into the stock markets. Can guarantee 95% are not even Pokemon fans and are just in for the value. Scalpers charging triple MSRP for something that they never even cared for until COVID. Yeah. I mean, it's not the best grammar there, but he laid it out. It's true. Poke Bros. Yeah. Because they act like it's crypto. I'm not dumping money into crypto. I'll say that much. I'll put my money in the stock, but I won't do it in crypto. It's too risky. Cards are the new hedge fund. Laugh out loud. Please stop talking like that. They're not the new hedge fund. They're a gamble. You're crossing your fingers everything works out. I keep saying that. When you're on the stock market, you just hit a button. Everything is sold. It doesn't work that way in this business. What goes up has to come down. Pokemon cards will crash hard. Yeah, they will eventually crash, It feels to me like they have kind of crashed somewhat since 2025, as far as my sales go, as far as Pokemon interest goes. I'm just not seeing the levels of interest for Pokemon cards in 2026 as I did in 2025. I can see it for myself, I'm not seeing the people, doing the handsprings for it, for the most part, like they used to. Say it louder for the people in the back to hear it. Yeah, if you're selling the stuff and you're not getting sales, yeah, you want to gaslight people, obviously, Gotta get some sales. We need people to buy into this BS, but I'm telling you, I just feel like this ideal of looking at Pokemon cards like it's an investment and a surefire stock, for the most part, I feel like it's just going to end up face planting somewhere along the way. I'm not exactly sure at what point, but eventually you're just going to see more and more people just not even caring about it. It worked when it needed to work. It worked during the pandemic for some people, make some money, But for the most part, since the pandemic, I just have a sense that there isn't as much interest in this stuff as there used to be. So, in reality, I just feel like eventually this stuff is going to come crashing hard. I'm not sure when it's going to happen. Maybe not within the next 10 years. Hopefully not. But I think when it does crash, a lot of it's going to have to do with the fact that just before, during, and after the pandemic, we've had a lot of people and companies pretending that this product is something different than it really is. And I like to hammer that in, if you have a lot of cards and they're not selling, wouldn't you just love to hit that sell button? Just like you're selling off your stocks, just like what I do. I set up, I hit that button, boom, they're all sold. I'm done for the day. You know what I mean? Wouldn't you like to do that? Because if they're going to pretend this is the stock market, well, how about we make it like the stock market? And that's where it breaks down. Is you don't have the power to just automatically sell off all your cards, all right? So to me, that's kind of the biggest issue here, I'd probably say this is more like a car lot than the stock market. Meaning that, I've worked on car lots. You bring in cars. Some cars sit there for years before they sell. Sometimes the car won't even sell and they just end up, getting auctioned off to another dealer, So I would say that rather than pretending that you're investing in the stock market or crypto, how about, if you're into selling sports cards, sealed wax, whatever, you hold the boxes for a few years, whatever. I would say that it's more like selling stuff on a car lot, a vehicle lot. It makes more sense, I mean, if you've ever done that before, you can't just hit a button on a car lot and all the cars are sold. It doesn't work that way. I wish it did, I would have made a lot more money selling vehicles. So I just wish that this hobby would stop all the gaslighting. Stop all the, this is what you want to invest in over stocks and crypto or this and that, or real assets like real estate and cars, Cardboard's cardboard. And I'm starting to see more and more people get angry about the gaslighters and grifters in this hobby. And I think that's a great thing. Anyway, I'd like to thank my subscribers. You're awesome. You're the only reason I keep doing these episodes. I like to thank my viewers. If you haven't subscribed, it's 100% free. If you could just hit the subscription button, I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. I'm out of here. Bye.